to share with you my formula for self-love. So we hear self-love and self-care as almost hashtags now, don't we? You know, it's glamorized, it's like the cool thing to do, but actually mine is the real nitty-gritty of it. So my formula for self-love is self-respect plus self-acceptance. I'm going to go into that on a more of a deeper layer because that's really who we are as humans, right? There's a surface layer that we show to the world, but really underneath all of that, the iceberg, that's where the real depth is who we are and how we act in the world and then what's returned back to us really. So yeah, I chose the title Inner Power Activation Leader for Women because I was working with my coach, kind of same story I think that you guys had. I was like, but what do I call myself? Because yeah, I'm a mentor, I'm a coach, I'm all of those things. And I was thinking about my journey and my story. And I really do think that throughout everything, I've always believed in that inner power inside of me. Now, there's been two sides to this, and I talk about this quite a lot, the polarity of everything in life, masculine and feminine energy as well. That's a big one that I tap into. But no matter what stage of my journey I was in, there was this deep inner knowing that I had something inside of me, this burning passion for whatever it was. And I always go first. So in all the work that I do now, especially as a mentor, I've done it. I've gone through it again and again and again. So everything that I'm teaching and delivering is because of my own lived experiences. And that's why I call myself Inner Power Activation Leader, because there's no nonsense there. It's like straight up, this is who I am. I own every part of me now, but a long time ago I didn't. And I felt inadequate and all of those things, but this is now me claiming every part of myself and standing in my true power. And I hope that this kind of inspires that inside of you as well. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. So I like to think of my story as alchemy because I've turned the pain of my childhood and all of those things into power. So I guess we've touched a bit on trauma, and I mentioned in the break to Caroline about how some little things like came to my mind at the time. And the thing is with trauma is that we can heal, we can go through it, but there's always an imprint in your mind and your body, and you'll always be reminded of it. Healing is a cycle and not a straight line. So the great thing about obviously going through therapy or coaching or anything like that is you gain tools that help you get through it. Now, a massive toxic part of who I am as a person was that I didn't ask for help. So I did all of my healing journey on my own. And it was a very long-winded process and very uncomfortable. But I just got to a point where in the pandemic, like everyone, being a professional dancer, thinking that I was going to, make it big time in LA, and all these big dreams came and all these things, and I hit a brick wall and I was like, okay. And then that kind of unraveled this journey for me. So when I started doing my healing, I realised how unique I was and how that's okay, because I've never fit into a box, society, school, my friends, everything. I've always been just that little bit different, and actually being okay with that was life-changing, just to be like, you know what, I am individual, and some of my really close friends now have called me Sherisse Unique, because I've always got to do it my way. I mean, I'm wearing a green dress and orange boots, do you know what I mean? If you're going to do it, do you know what I mean? So I just feel like if we can all take that, just that fact that you don't have to be like everyone else, that's a really great thing. Why would you want to be a cardboard cutout of everyone else? For what? Society makes us feel like that, but it's just, there's no need, and I can't shake that enough of everyone. I'm like, accept yourself fully as you are. That is your power, and you can move mountains with that energy. So we've spoken a brief bit about self-care, and this is where I want to get into, because self-care isn't just face masks, spa days, manicures, all of those things. Yes, it's important that we do that too, but that's a once in a month thing or a once every few weeks thing. Self-care is the consistent things that we do every day for ourselves. So as you were saying, the 1%, I am a completely different version of myself to what I was 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even up to 3 months ago, because I'm so dedicated to working on myself that little bit each time. And it is, it's hard and it takes effort and energy, but, I guess maybe a little bit toxically as well. I don't want to be who I was before. So that polarity of that keeps me going and keeps me consistent, because that's the alternative, right? We either change and become a better version of ourselves, or we remain the same Or my worst fear is that I go back into that. Now, I know that that's never an option, but I always have that in the back of my mind that I never want to be that version of myself again. True self-care is knowing when to rest. I can shout that from the top of my voice because we don't do it, do we? You know, like I said, I hit burnout so many times in my life, and I think women, you know, we are the unpaid caregivers of society. You are doing your 40 hours of work a week, you come home and you do an extra 30 hours of unpaid work because that's just the way society has trained us to be. We need to say no. We need to be able to know in our body when enough is enough and we need to take time out. I promise you now, when you tap into yourself, you will have little signs of when you need to rest. And we all ignore them. That it could be just down to you get a little bit of fatigue. So for me, I get a little kink in my neck. That's a sign that I need a break. Yeah, or you start to lose your voice, or you know, maybe you're starting to get a headache or you get a runny nose. That's your body saying, hello, I need to sleep. Do you know what I mean? It's all of these things that we were speaking about. All of these things are important. You have to tune into you, presented back to you. So the universe is a mirror of who you are. I am super woo-woo, you'll find that one as we go on. But yeah, everything in your life is a projection of who you are. So the minute you start to respect yourself more, accept yourself more, you will be presented with that back to you. Those friends that I let go of, I've now been rewarded with better friends or stronger connections, deeper connections, because I know that that's not who I am. That doesn't serve me. And even just down to the self-care element, you know, like I'd say 90% of the time I'm in tracksuit, no makeup, but the 10% that I do, you know, care and I do want to make an effort, that all ties into every part of me because I accept myself with or without it, but equally I respect myself enough to step fully in that and own that as well. And we all deserve the whole circle of it, you know, it's got to be that synergy of everything, and the self-care feeds into obviously the tasks that we do and how we treat ourselves as well. So if you want something you've never had, you've got to do something you've never done. But like we said, it's these small little steps that we do consistently. It doesn't have to be big, massive leaps forward. You know, like if you want to go vegan and you've been eating meat for the last 10, 20 years, it's not going to happen, is it? You're going to fall off. So you have to just take a little step each time. So what I'm going to go through with you now is shadow work. So it's not Halloween. It's something I'll go into. Obviously boundaries, because they're so important, and self-love practices. These are all things that I do myself. They're things I do with my clients. And I have a very holistic way of doing everything. It's probably a little bit unconventional sometimes, but I feel like I come from a grounded approach of like, this has worked for me. Give it a try, it might work for you. Again, we're all different, we're all human. It might work, it might not, you know, but it's for you to gain tools and stuff to try, because that's how we learn, you know. You don't learn from your successes, you learn from your failures. So that's why it's so important that you do try. You just try something new and different. And then accountability. That's so important. And you know, I mean, you've got accountability coaches, you know, in fitness, if you fall off a day, you know, it's having that backbone there, but you can be accountable for you. And it's so, befriending our shadow self. Often, so I like to call the shadow self a bit like Peter Pan. Has anyone seen Peter Pan? So you know like how the shadow follows him around and almost like antagonises him a little bit. Yeah, he's almost like poking him, telling him where to go, what to do. That's our shadow self. That's that voice at the back of your head telling you you're not good enough, or you'll never lose that weight, or he doesn't love you anyway. You know, it's that voice. That's the shadow self, and that looks like the blame, the shame, guilt in you, martyrdom. Now, I'm sure all of us in this room have an element of that, because that's that people-pleasing thing. Why do we do it? Because we think we're going to get the validation from it. We think, like we said, it makes us the good girl or the good person, but actually, that's self-sabotage. You know, when you're giving from an empty cup, like we said, or you're giving out of what you have as your last reserve, you're no good to anyone. And that's when that resentment builds. And that's what we want to avoid, because you're not your best self for anyone. They're not even for yourself. And then thinking about here, like what validates you? You know, what validates you? Is it because you can help other people before yourself? Or is it perfectionism? Because I've been that. Is it because you're really hard working? That validates you. So you keep working really hard and pushing through burnout because that makes you a hard working person. You know, So like we said, our words hold power. When we can reframe the way we speak to ourselves, like we take away the shame and the blame and accept ourselves, we accept the imperfectly perfect. So for example, I've used a very basic one because I felt like this could go on forever, but just have a little think for yourself. Like, what are the thoughts that you tell yourself consistently? Because it's that. Oh, the speaker's decided to go sleep. So for example, I'm rubbish at being on time. It could be that you're like, I'm unmotivated, I'm rubbish at doing the dishes, you know, like whatever it is, what's that dominant thought in your head, and then reframe it. You know, like, that isn't one of my strengths. And it's okay to not be. You don't have to be good at everything. None of us have to be great at everything. But if you want to work on it, then that will come into the accountability bit next. But if you don't want to, accept that is a part of who you are. Do you know what I mean? But equally, that's identity too. Because if you're telling yourself, I'm always a late person, you will always be a late person. Do you know what I mean? But we're allowed to be late. It's not a crime, you know? It's all of these things that add up, that make us who we are. So if we identify as being unreliable or inconsistent, that will show in your life, and it also get presented back to you in the people that you have around you. So if you can start to reframe that and be like, you know what, timekeeping's never been a strength of mine, I'm working on it. Or timekeeping just isn't a strength of mine. And you could speak to the people around you and say, you know what I'm like for timekeeping, tell me half an hour early and then I'll probably be there on time. You know, you can work like that too. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect. So boundaries, we're jumping across because I'm aware of time. Get some. Yes, get some. So as I was saying, you know, no boundaries looks like resentment. You know, we're pissed off, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? Like, you want to go to yoga at 7, but your stepmum or your mother-in-law's rang you and said, oh, can you drop me to the shop? Sorry, love, I can't drop you to the shop. I'm just about to go yoga, but ring your son. See you later. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that easy, you know? And I think we just get so fearful about doing that because we want to people please. But you don't have to. I promise you, yes, there is a shift. So when you do start having boundaries, the people around you are a little bit like, okay, this is different. I've had to completely restructure the way my family see me. As I said, I was the pillar of my family, and to some extent, I still am a little bit, but my boundaries look very different now, and that's the self-respect. So I actually have a journal, which is here as an example, that I use all of these tools in, and this is one of the tasks that I do. So I draw a big circle, and this is great for, you know, if you're someone that gets overwhelmed quite a lot, this is great to do with like your priorities. That's another way of saying like non-negotiables. So if you have like a lot on your plate, I would literally write 2 lists down of what it is, and then for you to see clearly what's important and what isn't. In the inner circle, I would put, you know, the people you need to answer the phone to every day, the people that you need to speak with, like your children, things like that. Also the tasks that are really important, like doing the washing up can wait a few days. It can, yeah? Or put it in the dishwasher, or let someone else do it. Yeah, that's a massive part of this. That'll go in the outer circle. But the things that aren't important at all, like dishes might not be important for you at all, they don't even get in the circle because that's other things, you know. But this is for you to see clearly where your priorities are and where important people in your life are, because sometimes we get overwhelmed with it, and this actually prevents burnout to an extent, because when you can see clearly, that makes such a difference, because so many of us are just getting on, we're just doing it, we're like, it's all going on, do you know what I mean? So we can find like clear pathways for ourselves to think and act and be. That just makes our lives so much easier. So the fun part is coming. So I don't know if anyone's seen RuPaul. Yeah? So if you can't love yourself, how the hell you're going to love somebody else? And that is the bottom line. If you don't love you, what are you giving out to everyone else? Because if it's not real love, true acceptance and self-respect and all of those things, you're giving them a conditional offer, because that's what you're giving to yourself. So really think about that, you know, like how you feel about you, as I said, is projected outwardly into everything that you do. So really feel that and understand that, because it's so important. So this is where we're going to tie it all together, okay? So self-love is amazing. This is also the self-care element, but it's only good if we do it. Yeah? Otherwise, what is it for? It's just, again, something we're waving around and we're like, yeah, great. But if you don't do it, then what's the point? Like we said, if you walk out of here and don't do anything that you saw today, not even one little thing, it would have all been for nothing. So this is a way of you keeping accountable. Like, this is something that I like to do, again, when things get overwhelming or just for any reason. Now, I've just given some random examples here, but when you think about like what the task is, so I mix what I currently do as self-care with what I would like to do, because that tells my brain that it's possible to do it because I already do it, right? So it's almost like you're not tricking yourself, but you're reminding yourself that I already do these things. So actually doing that as well isn't going to be that big of a deal. When you say when, that can be whenever is convenient for you, whenever you have the time or the capacity. You know your schedule. You know what works for you. You know if you've got the school run, you can listen to a guided meditation on the way. Yeah, on the way back when you've got no kids in the car. That's so easily done. And like I said to you, like my old version of me, I don't ever want to be that again. So I stay consistent for that reason. I keep being accountable because I don't want to fall back into that old part of me. That's my accountability factor. But for you, you might have people in your life that also want this, that also want to change or help or whatever. And if you've got a friend that, is off at the same lunchtime as you, go for a walk together, call your partner in your lunch break when you're making your nutritious meal, because that's really important to you. And this is what's important about this, the accountability part, is the fact that the accountability builds self-trust. And the self-trust is what builds the self-respect. It's all about these layers that we are building up. Like in my work, I talk about getting to the root of what's holding us back. And then from that space, when we've dismantled all of the trauma and the toxic traits and the people and the circumstances and situations that have held us back for so long, we build a solid foundation. And this is exactly what it looks like, So this is what I'm notoriously known for in my talks. You're going to find out why. So like I said, I reprogrammed my subconscious mind. So when I was in that state of trauma and in the lockdown, unpacking it all, I started off with looking at vulnerability. When I went into uni to do my master's, because I had no other choice, there was nothing else to do as a professional dancer in the pandemic, so I thought, right, I'm going to go back into education. And when I started to unpack the childhood trauma stuff, what I realised is the way I spoke to myself was so horrible. I just wanted to be perfect. I wanted to keep pushing forward, whether it was dance technique, whether it's my body. I had such high expectations of what I wanted to be. So I was telling myself, oh, you won't be good enough at that, or if you lose just a little bit more weight, or if you practice that a little bit more, like to the point where people were actually quite worried about me, where I was just constantly pushing forwards. So when I started to unpack that and see the connection, I was like, okay, this makes sense. So I need to think about how I'm talking to myself. So I used affirmations as a massive part of just changing the way I think about myself. And it was one morning in the lockdown, and I woke up saying my affirmations, and at that point I'd realised that I'd broke through the toxic mould that I've had in my life for so long. And I actually feel like I fully healed a massive cycle when I did a breathwork thing in the lockdown as well. And that's why, breathwork, meditation, all of these holistic practices are so important, because they've literally changed my life, I cannot tell you. So I've actually upgraded these. I used to say, I'm powerful, I'm strong, I'm worthy, I'm enough. These are so much more powerful, because these are the version of myself that I stand in now and that I always want to be. And so I say, I am powerful, I am magnetic, I am beautiful, I am deserving, I am worthy, and I'm so much more than enough. Now, if you're listening to that and not agreeing with it for yourself, there's a sign there that there's some trauma, some underlying things. Now, I talk about feminine and masculine energy, and it does connect to mother and father wounds. So a lot of the time when we have a mother wound, we can't accept compliments. And when we have a father wound, like maybe we don't trust men, or we also have that toxic behaviour pattern where we want to do all the time. Masculine energy is doing, feminine energy is being. So that's just really important. But for the sake of today, I want you to repeat after me, okay? Just let go of whatever you're thinking, think back to Beyonce, and just be in that space. Because like I said, the subconscious mind is what controls 95% of your brain. If you can get one of those affirmations in, that's life-changing. Repeat after me. I am powerful.
I am powerful.
I don't believe you. I am powerful.
I am powerful.
Yes. I am magnetic.
I am magnetic.
I am beautiful.
I am beautiful.
I need that one louder. I am beautiful.
I am beautiful.
This was so hard for me to say before. I am deserving.
I am deserving.
Yes. I am worthy.
I am worthy.
One more. I am worthy.
I am worthy.
Yes. I am so much more than enough.
I am so much more than enough.
Exactly that. Give yourself a round of applause. On the table, I've left you some post-it notes. So on the post-it notes there, everyone take one and just pass it around, post-it notes. So to start off with how I would take two, in fact, I started to put them around everywhere. So a really powerful way to use your affirmations is to put them by a mirror and actually look at yourself as you say it. It's weird to start off with, and it's uncomfortable to start off with, but when you can say to yourself, I am beautiful, the whole world sees that back. And it's really important that you look into the mirror and say it if you can. And it's something you can build up to. Maybe at first it's just an I, and then look away. And then gradually you build up to just standing fully in front of it and being like, yes, I am beautiful, slay queen, yeah? So on the post-it note, write down your own version of that. So it doesn't have to be the same as mine. It could even be that you're getting on that track of, you know, saying I'm beautiful feels a lot. It could be just, I accept myself. I am who I am, you know, like all of those things. Like, you know, I am deserving should be on there because you are deserving of what you want. Yeah, you are worthy of what you want. It's all of that. So just write down a few and then just keep it with you. I mean, you can do this as well throughout, obviously, the rest of my whatever I'm going to say, but it's just really important that you have your own version of this. Like I said, I have my journal there. I also have a podcast as well called Permission to Shine. So that's really my sort of signature statement. It's like when you give yourself the permission to shine and be who you are on the inside, the whole world benefits from that. And actually, I think Kate is coming on next week, so you'll be able to listen to that. So my journal obviously is available through my website and also through Etsy, and I've got worksheets on Amazon as well. So what I like to say, like obviously you are the only you there is. That is your superpower. So please just remember that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be who you are, even in our worst moments as well. Like I think we always think that we have to change something, but even on your core level, even if you went away from here today and you didn't change anything, you are still amazing and powerful and worthy in all of those things. And I always say that there's a little light inside of each and every one of us, like right in the core of our being. And trauma, expectation, other people's opinions, dim that light and block it. So when we get to the root of that little light inside of us, you know, when we unpack all of the trauma, all of the obstacles that have held us back for so long, that light shines up and out through us, out into the whole universe. And could you imagine the light that we would create in this room alone, right? All that beautiful light, because you just don't realise how many people are inspired by you just being who you are. And that's why you need to give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't only benefit yourself, you benefit everyone else too. And I think that's the biggest act of self-love for sure. So if you want to work with me, I've got an academy, and that is all about this, manifestation. I also work with the moon, and I didn't speak about this quite a lot, but when I was going through the healing journey, that was my Saturn return. So we all go through a Saturn return. It's between the ages of like 27 to 33, and that's when karma sort of comes back on itself and we learn and we grow through it. I work with the full moon and the new moon for manifestations, all of that, but also the unpacking of trauma, working in these group circles, and also have one-to-one sessions as well. So whether it's just a one-off or, you know, 5 sessions, or if you want a full day, or obviously to work with me for 6 to 12 months for that real healing journey, my work is all about holding your hand through the journey of self-discovery. As we said, we don't do it for you. but we lead you through every part of the way. You can find me on social media and also my website. And as I said, on YouTube, I've got like a free manifestation series. I've got a free meditations. And I do manifestation because I believe that manifestation is a byproduct of high and deep self-worth. So that's why it all ties in. But thank you so much for listening, and give yourself the permission to shine because you're amazing.